this is Dread from Epic Builds, and in today's video topic, we're going to be charging forward into patch 8.5 and trying to make this old skill function again, thanks to a lot of the changes that EHG has made this patch. Now, this is a little bit of a new format. This video is not scripted. This is just me talking about the build that I've been playing. I played it all the way to Empowered Monoliths so far. I am in level 100-ish content and like Corruption 120-ish after that Orbis. I've done a few T3 dungeons. The build is not finished. Why I want to do this is because I want to show you guys the process of making the build. Now, I leveled as Static. Now, I would heavily suggest not leveling as Static. I would not suggest leveling as this and not respecking into this until I get the build finished, because I don't think the build feels good enough, quote unquote, to actually play in its current state. There are a few things that I'm missing. Mainly, I'm missing better static charge idols, and I'm missing a prismatic gaze. That is mainly what I'm missing. So when I get those, then we can do the full build guide. This is just simply a little update while I'm working on the build, because I've been streaming a lot more on Twitch. twitch.tv/epicbuilds_YouTube, where I've been showing the whole process of the leveling, the playing. I've been playing in solo just so you guys can get the idea of what these builds look like when I'm making them. Now, Static was buffed this patch. First off, it was bugged. The 1% more damage per charge was not being utilized by Static, meaning that it was not getting any damage. So it was literally doing no damage. Now, the way Static works is as you move or when you get hit, you will generate static charges. Now, whenever you pop it, you will do damage based on those static charges, as well as hit more enemies and do other interesting things with how many static charges you have. Now, I have a node that gives me 1 flat lightning spell damage per static charge I have, and that makes it so that I can play with something like a rune dagger and a offhand, and not like an actual like a staff or whatever, and still do plenty of damage. It does make it though so that the mana cost of Static raises per mana, but of course we're using Mana Strike to sustain our mana, so it's not really big of a problem, and it also ends up helping us in the end. Now, Static was buffed. Instead of just 1% more damage per charge, which would be like 100% more damage at where we're at, it's 4% more damage per charge. So we're doing 400% more damage per charge. And this leads us to doing about 100k to 120, 40k crits on the dummy currently with my current setup. I'm missing a few things. I'm missing Prismatic Gaze, of course, but once I get the rest of the gear, I'll be completely fine. And of course, that 1 mana per 1 flat lightning damage wasn't working either, which was another fix that they done. And the rest of the skill tree has been unchanged, because Static actually had a really good skill tree. It just dealt no damage. And now that it deals damage, there are plenty of interesting options. You could play this on a sorcerer, you could play it on a spellblade. Like, you have a lot of options now, and I can't wait to try all of them. Like, Static being buffed has like at least added like 3 builds into the game. Now, how the build functions, we are very reliant on critting things. The reason that is because we're using a node inside Static that is called Surge. Now, the way it works is it gives us 3 static charges per crit if we have discharged in the last 3 seconds. That means if I use discharge and I crit a bunch, I'll get 3 charges per crit, and our cap is 100. Now, currently, with my current setup, you want to reach 100 as quickly as possible. And doing that, you need stuff like Mana Strike critting. We also have the lightning from Mana Strike also critting. We have the spark charges from Mana Strike critting. We have, I think Enchant Weapon is critting as well with its own little thing, its own little static charge thing. And we also have Elemental Burst as well, which is also critting. And all of those combined make it so that when I pop my Static, right, I will go back to full charges within those 3 seconds. If you don't get to full charges within those 3 seconds, then you have to rely upon your static charge idles. And that doesn't feel good at all. So you don't want to go over what you can generate in 3 seconds. So for instance, you can add max stacks to static, but I found it's better to keep the amount of static charges low and just keep refreshing it and keep spamming it instead of having a high one, because it's easier to get to 100, proc it, get to 100 again, because that can be done under 3 seconds, which is the limitations that we need to be able to work with. Because if we don't crit enough within those 3 seconds, it feels terrible. Now, when we reach max stacks, we also have a node that resets the cooldown of static. This makes it so that whenever we reach full stacks, we reset the cooldown and we can hit it, bam. Then we can attack again, hit it, bam, and we can keep cycling through that. This is mainly for our single target. Now, for our clear, we actually have Surge. Surge is really nice because not only does it bypass the cooldown of our static, it also bypasses the insane mana cost, which allows us to simply walk into a pack and blow it up with static, and it feels really good. Now, with static, we also want extra hits, enemy hits, because each static will at least hit 5 enemies first, and then we also have 3 enemies from the tree, and then 2 extra from that one node that gives you 1 per 50 charges. So we have at least 11 enemies hit each time we static, which is very important because when you're trying to like blow up a pack, there's like spider packs and stuff like that that have a lot more enemies than you're used to. Or like when you walk into like a fireball pack, you instantly blow them up, which feels really good. So you want as many targets as possible. Now, I was using the max charge node to get up to 150, and I was also utilizing the range, which felt really good behind the max charges. The problem is it just did not feel good trying to struggle to get to 150 when instead of getting to 150, I can triple that amount of time, triple the amount of statics I proc each second with, of course, going to 100, because the refresh happens and then I'm constantly refreshing it. So I'm always in that 3-second window to give my crits more static charges. Now for our defenses, I actually opted for a opulent focus. So for offhand, opulent focus was buffed this it was added this patch, and it gives us a bunch of ward retention, a bunch of ward per second, and also a bunch of intelligence, which all of that makes it so that when we build ward, it actually feels good. This is the first time I've ever built ward in a long time that actually feels good to play, and I'm very proud of that. Now, this makes Spellblade back in the game, because a lot of Spellblade stuff is ward retention based. I do plan on getting the Frostbite Shackles to scale even more ward retention through the roof, but that's something I'll have to farm later. Now, the single target is lackluster. It is not the best thing ever. It has its problems currently. I'm missing one item that would super juice my single target. So right now, I'm like static charging every like 1.5 seconds with my current setup on average, right? And I'll go even faster if I attack faster thanks to enchant weapon. Now, the problem is we don't have any other ways of it getting extra crits. We also have elemental burst in the Spellblade tree, which is another crit, 40% chance to crit. So all of these crits will help us get to 100 as fast as possible. The problem is we don't have anything else except Prismatic Gaze. Now, Prismatic Gaze, the way it works is when you use a skill that's under 40 mana, an elemental skill, you'll get an elemental charge, like a prism charge, and then you'll cap to 5, and then once you use a skill that costs more than 40 mana, which static is 100 mana, it makes it so that you'll shoot out 5 prism shards that will all hit the enemy. These are spells, they can crit, and each time you flip over your static, you'll hit 5 times extra for 15 extra. That's 15% of the way there, all the way to 100. So it will actually make it so that we can cycle through our statics even faster, because the faster we cycle through our statics, the more charges we get per second, the more damage we'll be dealing in the end, and it feels really good. Now, I am currently missing, of course, prismatic gaze. That's specifically what I'm missing. And I'm also missing frostbite shackles. Other stuff, I'm just missing really good crit avoid gear. I'm not capped on crit avoid, and I'm missing a little bit of intelligence because, as you know, intelligence gives you a bunch of ward per second thanks to Spellblade. Now, what I need to farm crit multi from Raye. I'm missing crit multi from Raye. I am also missing a lot of different, what do you call them? A lot of different blessings. Now, I cannot do Lagan. Lagan is not targetable by static, so do not level this build. Level a different Spellblade, Flame Reave, whatever, and then respec into this build, because Lagan is impossible to do right now because you cannot hit him with static, which is very sad, but it's just the case right now, right? You'll just have to level with a different build and then respec into this. So do not level as this build, okay? Do not level as this build. With all that being said, I think that's pretty much it for the video this time. We're not going to go in depth with the build like I normally do. We're going to do that next time in the next video when the whole build is finished. I will be leaving a planner of my gear that I currently have in the description. There will also be the Twitch description, also be the Discord in the description as well. Everything will be there. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video and watches this far, please leave a like. It helps me a lot. And also consider subscribing, as this is one of the best places currently to get Last Epoch content. Now, with all that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you're at, and see you next time.